I just got a smoking deal on this wrecked Lamborghini Aventador here. We're gonna try to rebuild it. Personally, I'm more of a Bugatti Veyron man myself, but so don't have much experience with this model, but we'll get it figured out probably. Yeah. Needs a little bit of rust repair. Not a big deal. We're gonna get that sorted out. Got a whole team of mechanics and fabricators and body people that can get this all sorted out for me. I'll never have to get my hands dirty at all, but it's going to be some really epic content. We're going to start out by putting this unit in here. Not for any particular reason other than it's convenient. Somebody's already tried doing the old Louisiana lap weld technique and it's sadly failed here. So what I've done here is I left a lot of chunks of the original kind of panel. Everything is so badly decomposed and bent here that it's really hard to know what's what, but I just tried to leave as much as I could rather than just cut everything away. So if I cut everything away, then I have no idea at all. And then I just put a couple of tack welds in this piece now, and this piece is going to be our datum for building the entire basically rest of this area here. It lines up fairly close with these holes here, but the thing to remember with all this stuff is don't assume anything. These aftermarket panels, they're never exactly the same as the original. You can see here there's alignment issues here, so this is going to have to be probably sliced and brought in to flush this up. And then over here somebody's hammered all this and brazed it and made a mess of it, so all this is going to have to be worked here. Also, this line here we've discovered isn't exactly in the right spot as we compared it to the old panel, so we just kind of found what we think right now is the best spot for this, and then we tack welded it in. I don't want to fully weld anything because it's a lot easier to cut apart a tack weld and redo it than to cut apart something that's fully welded. So I hope some of that makes sense. Don't assume anything is in the right spot or in the same spot as original. Don't cut away anything you don't have to. Leave as much as you can and just kind of do it piecemeal, or at least this is the way I like to do it. Somebody's probably got a better way, but this is just how I prefer to do it. Next piece of our puzzle here is going to be this panel here, which is our inner rocker panel and partial floor panel, which is to replace all that's missing here. Anybody who's been watching this channel for any amount of time, first of all, I apologize. Secondly, you'll know that I'm generally violently opposed to using the entire patch panel. I always say only use what you need to, and I still feel that way. In this case, what we've decided to do is go against all of that and use the entire patch panel. A couple of reasons for that. First of all, obviously the rust, well, it extends past the patch panel, so we'll just have to put some body filler on that later on. But I figured, seeing as how the rust basically comes up to here and way up past here over here, instead of doing like a weird thing that comes up to here partway through here and then over here and up in here and all around there, I'm just going to use the whole thing and just do one continuous seam across here. I think it'll be a little cleaner than kind of a jigsaw thing, and I'm lazy and whatever. So we'll just do the cut and butt here. That's where I run my zip wheel along here. We'll cut away the bottom layer, flush this up, and then weld it all together. Well, and that should be that. Simple, easy, no problem. So I just got this thing tack welded in here. Again, I'm not finished welding anything until all of this is together and the door is fit and everything. But it is just roughly tacked in here now, so we got some structure back in this, which is good, I guess, maybe. I noticed we didn't really do a whole lot here. That's because this is all rotten here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a patch that comes up through here, up into here, and up into here. And that'll take care of all that rust. Here's the old leftover floor that we cut out. Now, I will say normally when I'm doing the cut and butt type thing, I'll only leave like an inch or half inch or whatever material and then just cut that away because it makes it a lot easier to peel it off. In this case, I left this all intact because as soon as I cut this away, the floor in the truck is going to start drooping and doing weird things, so I didn't want to lose the shape of that. So that's why I left it all in. It made a little bit more of a hassle to do it, but in the end, nothing in theory moved around. So it looks like the next structural emergency here is going to be getting this something connected here, because right now there's nothing at all, and we kind of would like to not have that all fold in on itself. I took the trouble to dissect all of this, even though I'm going to have to be replacing it up to about here or so. The reason I did that is just so that I can verify that this is kind of the same shape as the replacement piece and that I know it's going to be going in the right spot. Now, this actual shape here What appears to be good. The problem we have, I don't know what the deal is with these panels, but they all come out of the box, or a lot of them come out of the box looking like somebody like tried flattening them or something. So you can see it all this needs to be bent and manipulated to get to the right profile, but the shapes are there. It's just, like I said, it's like somebody just tried flattening it out or something before they put it in the box. I don't know. We'll make it work. I gotta say the quality of this piece is a little underwhelming. Probably better than starting with nothing, but still not a spectacular thing. About 100% chance I'm gonna have to go back and cut some of this and rework it. But for now, it's at least got this locked in so it can't move. We'll revisit it later. I think I already said before, but I'm not fully welding any of this until every piece of the truck, including the door, has been fit. It's a lot easier to cut these tack welds apart and rework it than to cut something apart that's been fully welded. Next step is to tackle the front lower post. Hoping this piece is a little better than the back piece, but we shall soon find out. So I decided to just hold off on this, and we're gonna switch gears and change out the cab brace here. Well, I mean, it's not there anymore, but we're gonna put something in there. So we just invested a whole pile of time messing around with the cab mount bolts. I think 99% of any restoration is fighting with old seized hardware and trying to make stuff fit. But there's the old bolt from the back of the cab, and that's what it's supposed to look like. So that wasn't gonna hold much anymore, probably. I really should have just found a better cab.
So I just got this piece tack welded in now, our cab brace or whatever you want to call it. A couple things about this. Kind of hard to film under here, so but pretty straightforward install. Only thing I'll mention is if your cab mount isn't completely rusted out, like it's only rusted out here, don't change the whole thing. Don't change the whole thing unless you absolutely have to. Unfortunately, a lot of times they do completely rust out. But you know, if you can get away with just splicing it in somewhere, even here, it's way better than trying to get up into the abyss here. It makes it a lot more difficult. In this case, we had to. Wasn't really any choice. It was just so rusty. Other thing is the little holes they put in here. Don't assume any of them are in the right spot. I think we already mentioned that, but they're not in the right spot, or they're usually not. At least wasn't on the last one I did, and same deal on this one. So Just put it where it fits, I guess.
How much you want to bet I'm going to regret doing that in the not too distant future? A lot of people ask what I put on the inside of these panels here. Originally, from the factory, the majority of this stuff, it was all bare steel. Obviously it rusts after 60 some odd years, so we kind of want to avoid that. Best product to use would be automotive epoxy primer. For fixing junk like this, I just use generic rust paint, like just over-the-counter stuff. Everybody's got a different brand depending on where they live, but just, you know, just cheap rust paint. I'll thin it out with some acetone and brush it in so it creeps into all the seams and whatever. And I find it holds up just as well as a lot of the name brand fancy, you know, restoration specific rust paints that you pay a whole pile of money for. I think a lot of that stuff is just snake oil, so that's what I use when I'm fixing junk. If you really want it to be really good, then use automotive epoxy primer on the inside of everything. And then after the vehicle is like painted, like fully painted everything, then you can take a wax oil, and they usually comes with like a wand or something, and you just jam it inside every crevice and just coat everything until it's running out of every seam and then dripping out everywhere and making a mess. And that just creeps into all the seams and does a pretty good job of rust proofing it, all your joints and flanges and whatever. You don't want to do that before paint because, like I said, it makes a mess and it can cause issues with your paint, fish eyes and stuff like that. So it's kind of your last step, I guess, when the vehicle's totally done. Coat the inside of everything with that. At the end of the day, though, all this stuff is going to rust out again, you know, in 30-40 years. So there's no perfect system, but do what you can. Don't just leave it all bare. That's not a good thing to do at all. In my opinion, it's completely pointless to replace all this metal and then leave the inside of everything bare metal again, because it's gonna rust out a lot faster. So definitely coat the inside with whatever you want. Epoxy primer is the best, but I just use generic rust paint on most of the junk I work on. It seems to work okay. So that's our rant on that. Sorry for the intermission here. I just clamped the rocker panel in place. We're a long ways from welding it on right now, but what I did before I cut any of this apart was I took several measurements from fixed points on the body and then measured down to what was left of the original metal. And I also measured across here and up every which way just to give myself a baseline measurement and something to go off of. So I just clamped this on here and then I rechecked all my measurements and everything is apparently in the right spot. Doesn't mean that it is. Still gonna have to fit the door on, but it at least gives us some false hope right now that all of this is in the right spot. I never rely on the measurements 100% on this old stuff because it's always different from side to side. This truck is a 1/4 inch different in several areas from side to side. And the panels are usually different. They're not exact reproductions, so there's a lot of differences. So the measurements are only kind of your starting point. Everything else is dictated by how the panels will fit together, which we're not getting into in this video, but that'll be coming up.
So a bit of a hack with the rear cab braces on these 1960 to 1972 Chevy trucks is there's a floor brace that runs to the front. This is the back of the truck, But anyways, it's welded on here, and there's a little ear in here that it welds to, and then it's also welded here. So instead of messing around trying to dissect all this laying under the truck, what I do is I just hack off this brace right here, take it all out in one piece, and then after I get the brace back in, I just weld it back on here. I'm sure there's a way to dissect all of this and, you know, get it all out in one piece, but I've just never I just never bothered to do that, or I've tried doing it and it seemed like it was gonna cause more damage than it would fix. So sometimes you gotta make damage to fix damage. Here's a look at the passenger side. I cut this one further back. Probably shouldn't have done that, but it's too late. Anyways, you idiot. You look at the passenger side. Okay, maybe now it's out you can see better. Here's our passenger side cab brace. Here's the floor brace that connects into it. These welds are easy enough to get off under the truck. The problem is trying to get in here to get this one off. You gotta like dissect it through here somehow or whatever. I just find it ain't worth it. Just hack the whole thing off and then weld it back on after. Makes the job a little bit simpler. Probably a way to do all this. Leave it in place, but I don't know. Not worth my time. Here's another little pro tip here. If the rear cab brace is rusted like this one is, you shouldn't have bought the truck because it's garbage. See, that's right on the verge of collapse there. And so what we've, I thought I could just scab in a plate, but now that I've got it all dissected here, I can see it's much worse than I originally thought. So what I done here is I just ran a piece of 2x1 across the frame, and then I put in the new cab mount just kind of temporarily right here. There's another bolt hole here for some reason, so I just put it there to support it, and now we're gonna have to hack all this out and scab something else in. There's gonna be a bit of hobgobblery here to kind of make this all work without pulling the cab off, but we'll make it strong maybe. This is the brace that we constructed. I just, nothing too crazy here. I just welded a U inside here, plug welded it so that it has an extra double layer here. And I added like a tube in there just so that when the bolt for the body mount gets tightened, it doesn't just crush this completely. And then we just added a plate on the top, mainly because I had a chunk of plate with a hole in it already. But this will just kind of give a little extra strength for the floor to weld onto, and an extra support for the body mount thingy as it goes through there. None of this is factory, or at least I don't think so. I mean, I don't know for sure, I wasn't there, but I think it'll be strong-ish enough to support the cab maybe. If not, well, if
If it folds up on itself, it folds up on itself. I don't really care. As long as it lasts long enough to get out of here. So I just fully committed and just burned this piece right in. There's really only one place it can go, and it's welded to the cab brace. So I guess the cab brace, we're committed to that now as well. Hopefully I don't regret that.
We also welded our thingamajig piece that we cut off. We welded that back on, and then we burnt it onto here as well. So all this is now locked into place fairly confidently. Still got lots of floor to patch in. Still got to plug weld all this and weld all this. Lots of welding to do, but we're not getting that committed yet. But I just don't think there's anywhere else that this cab support goes, so it's where it is now.
Working on the floor area here. So we bent this as you saw in the brake, and now the problem is you put it here into where it should be, and you can see maybe that it's rocking here. So what needs to happen is I need to stretch through here to allow it to curve and take on the contour floor. This arcs through here, it's not totally flat. I have it marked on here where I want to stretch, and then we're going to do what we in the biz call a pirate stretch, because it's a hack way of doing it, but we'll get the job done, possibly. I'll just use the chisel end of my hammer here, and we'll do like this. Backing it up against a hardened surface. So you can see the floor piece is now fitting flat. It's got a curve to it, just like the factory floor. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do this on an exterior panel. It leaves a lot of tattoos. They do make a special hammer for this that isn't as harsh. It's called a linear stretching hammer, I think. But this is just a fast, crude way of doing it. I'm going to go back and I'm just going to hammer this a little bit just to kind of smooth it out a little bit more, and then I'll call it good enough there. Just tack welded and screwed in. Obviously we'll have to go back and drill these out 5/16 inch hole all along here, and then plug weld the brace on in place once we're satisfied with the fit of everything. You also see how this does, we clean it up a bit, but there's still, it leaves some pretty decent tattoos in there, which we're not too concerned about on this truck. You wouldn't want to be doing this on a Lamborghini Aventador, but maybe on a Gallardo it might be okay. It does add a bunch of shape into a panel in a real hurry, so we got a nice curve there like the factory had. And some of you are probably wondering why I cut so much of this out, and there's actually a reason for that. The reason is that it was rusted all through here, and there's an area here that had a bunch of pinholes in it, so it was rusty there. And then it was also rusty all along the seam. I'm at the upper firewall. I still have to make a piece in here. But anyways, there was a substantial amount of rust, so instead of doing a patch here, a little patch here, patch up here, it's easier to just make one big patch and weld it all in one continuous piece. A lot cleaner, and I find the little patches actually take longer to build and weld in than the big ones. And then you end up, not that it matters on the floor, but you get that concentration of heat in a small area, and you end up with a lot more warpage and stuff rather than just doing a longer seam. So that's why we elected to just make a full piece here. A full floor pan for this side, for like the cheesy one that isn't even quite right. It's like I think over $100 Canadian per side. And the actual supposed OE style or factory style one is over $150 per side. So there's $200 or $300, over $300 for just cutting out this little area here. So I didn't really see any need to buy more panels than I had to. I will say I am glad that I bought the panels that I did. They were worth the money. There's no way I'd be fixing this truck if I couldn't buy panels for it. It's too much of a rusty pail. But I don't have $1 million to buy every panel. You know, it'd be awesome to buy the full floor pan, which is like $2,000 Canadian, and just put that whole unit in, which already comes with the cab braces and everything welded on, and you just nice clean installation, which is what you'd have to do if you're doing this as a show truck. You don't want a bunch of cabbage patch stuff going on the floor. But yeah, I ain't spending that kind of money on this truck. So the only real disappointment so far with these panels is this lower post piece. This could be a lot better, and then the rear cab brace is pretty underwhelming as well. We'll make it work. I got some more tweaking to do on this post. I can tell already it's gonna need some work to get it to fit a little better, but other than that, you know, it is what it is. It's not as good as the original metal by any means, but it's the same thickness, and at the end of the day, I think when it's all done, you won't hardly know. And I don't know where you folks live, but in my part of the world, I wouldn't find a cab that would be much better than this around here. They're all pretty well rusted in the same areas. And actually, I find when they're this rusty, it's actually easier to put the panels in and to cut them out and everything. They still usually need the same panels when there's not as many holes, and then you're trying to dissect it and away from clean metal, whereas this you can just hack away and go to town. The worst parts of this cab are actually, or the biggest, I guess, disappointments, there's the fact that the entire bottom of this is rotted right from front all the way across here. You can see we already cut this out. I didn't cut out good metal there, that was already garbage. So all that has to be fabricated still. Firewall is also super rotten on this thing. I've never seen one rust here before, but this is all, you know, fairly simple still to build. The roof on this cab is good though, which is actually pretty rare to find on these trucks. You can't see right now because it's got welding blankets everywhere, but the worst part of this roof is that some crackhead got holes for speakers in it, but other than that, it's actually a rust-free roof, and it's not dented or anything. So that's kind of what made me decide to fix this rather than find another cab. All the ones around here are usually rusted out above the roof, and that's a big job to try and fix. So we'll stick to welding on stuff that you can't actually see. Well, that's the end of part one for the rust repair on our Lamborghini Gallardo. Tune in next time. We're going to be fixing more rust, would you believe? Huge shout out to all of you for watching, and all the people who have been sending me donations and stuff through PayPal and through the super thanks and super chats on YouTube, and all of our regular patrons of the show. All you folks, really helps me out to continue setting time aside to film this stuff for you to watch, and probably not enjoy, but to watch. So thank you, all of you. It is very much appreciated. Don't forget to dislike and unsubscribe and do all that stuff. Leave a nasty comment, whatever it is you want to do. Usually we finish stuff out, but this is all just tack welded together right now, so it's a good opportunity to leave a comment and let me know everything I've been doing wrong here, how it's all wrong, it's all terrible. That's always very helpful, and you might even catch me in time to warn me, you know, it's not fully welded yet, so we can always cut it apart and redo it to your specifications. Anyways, we'll catch you next time with more rust.